There we are. This is Crazy John here on OSH Radio. And today we're here with Derek Young.
Amen.
Hey, and we've worked before. You're down as a filmmaker, writer, producer, some directing. You work with some pro wrestling too, I believe.
Oh, yeah. I actually, as the pro wrestling part, you ever watch pro wrestling back in the day?
Yeah. I have a little bit of a hand in some of that myself.
Okay, so I actually am just a manager, but yeah, I've been forced into a couple matches and had some fun. So
I
yeah.
actually did one indie match right after high school. I was weighing about 230 at the time, and I was a heavyweight wrestler in high school. And I tell you, it's funny how I got drug into that. I went to a gym that Arnold had worked out sometimes at when it was Nautilus, when Nautilus opened up. And my name is John J. Carrots. Well, there's a John J. Carrots man that would sometimes accidentally, his payments would go towards my gym membership, which was very nice. But I overheard in the locker room one time they were looking for some people to get beat. You know, occasionally you need some people that nobody knows just to get beat in some indie matches and stuff. So one time I went and did one, and I had broken my chest after that working out with my collegiate friends wrestling, so I didn't pursue that. But the funny thing is, John Carrots, man, he went on to become John Rambo. He was trained by the Rock's dad, you know, because I'm originally from the Bethel Allentown area, and I
Yeah.
had met the Rock when he was a kid, and I never realized that's who that was till one day I was looking through stuff, and it's like, oh shit, he had become John Rambo, the wrestler, and sometimes it's a very small world. I always like to
Oh,
talk about how my dad designed. You know, they used to do a lot of their tapings in Allentown at what was called Ag Hall. And
yeah.
when my dad was a draftsman, he actually designed that building. So that was always my tie-in too, is, you know, the place they used to film all the stuff in Allentown at, my dad had designed the building. So that's, you know, it's funny how small a world it is. But
Oh,
me and you
yeah.
had worked
Ends up
together.
that way.
Both of us were involved in the Toxic Tutu movie.
Oh, yeah. That was a lot of fun. Um, you know, I helped. I became a producer on that and became real good friends with Joe and was helping out with that and got to become good friends with Mark. So it was a real good experience. It was the first thing I ever got to work on that was really trauma styled. You know, it was pretty cool. It was um, the I got to help work like so that whole segment in Toxic Tutu where Jake the Snake DDTs Johnny Fairplay and all that stuff.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I helped set all of that up. I got Jake in the movie. I got Mel Novak into it, the guy that goes in and karate chops him and stuff. And then I got us all booked at this convention, which was hell. But we ended up getting that footage, so it was, worth it. But
Was that
uh,
where was that? Was that the little one down in, was that Virginia or West Virginia, or where was that one?
that was in Ohio. It was,
Ohio, okay.
yeah, and
That was a different one than I was thinking of.
yeah, no, the one in Virginia is the one. I got Joe to come down, and that's the one I actually held, and I got Joe to come down, and he filmed the scene with Fairplay when he's with Nadia White. So it was a blast helping put that together.
So that one you put together, I was down at that one also. I was you know, it's funny, like when you film these films, it's funny because if you know me, then you go back and look at the film, and it's like, other than the part that I filmed in LA where we're on a panel, uh, making, pretending that we're at the Mad Monster party, but we're actually at a college in LA doing it. If you
Yeah.
look through the film, you see me in different places doing different things. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
then
you
you're in
were.
the background.
Yeah, because you were at Mad Monster in North Carolina with that stuff that Joe was doing there. So
Yeah, I was at the one Mad Monster, and yeah,
yeah,
that
so
was.
it was a lot of fun, man. I mean, going to different conventions and doing different things with it. And, I mean, the
I still miss Joe. I used to talk to Joe a lot, and the way I found out he finally died was I saw him at the premiere in New York, and he was like in remission and doing well. And we had still been texting, and all of a sudden, I didn't get a reply from his text for a couple of days. And sure enough, he had passed away. And it's like, I've had that happen with a couple friends now. That's what happens when you get older. It's you're
yeah,
texting people or emailing them, and all of a sudden you don't hear anything back from them anymore. And
yeah, it
yeah,
sucked.
but
It sucked because I didn't get to make the premiere, and that was like one of the big things for Joe was getting all the cast members together to have a kind of reunion from everybody at the premiere, and um, it it was real like crazy because like a lot of people don't like if you haven't watched Toxic Tutu, you don't understand the concept of it and the fact that the toxic waste is real and you can either drink it and become live forever, or you drink it and turn into shit and debris and die. Right. And then Joe decided at the end of it, it would be fun to be in, him himself sitting and drinking the toxic waste. And then after he filmed that scene was when he started feeling sick and getting sick, which was crazy. Right. And then the fact that he got one of the like rarest blood cancers you could get, and then it going into remission in order for him to put everything out there to turn around and take him out is kind of like crazy, the fact that he drank the toxic waste and is no longer around, just the way it would be in the movie. And it was like such a surreal thing to just be sitting there and knowing you had this great friend that you could talk to every day, and just now all of a
now
sudden,
he was gone. Yeah.
and he was just so healthy and so vibrant and so full of life and had so much, like he had so many ideas to do a follow up, um, that he went over with me. And um, I don't know, there's like there's that whole possibility that maybe we can all come together and pull it off for him, right?
That
but
would be nice.
but we'll just have to see how things go. you know the biggest thing is I've like I Mark said that I just want to make sure it gets out to the world. So um taking and Joe wanted it to make some good money and everything else, but at the end of the day, here we are, and everybody wants to make sure people gets to see what he made. Now, nobody a part of it really cares about the money aspect of it. And so I've worked with this indie distribution company, and um, they always get stuff out and get it out to good places and everything. So um, I told Mark, I was like, hey man, if we want to get it out, these guys will get it out. So I hooked that up and was able to get it out for us. And then um, after Lloyd and Troma brought out Troma Now and they launched it, I was sitting and I was talking to Mark and I said, it would be great since they got Toxic Tutu out streaming if we can get this thing on Troma Now. So I got the distribution company in contact with who they needed to get in contact with for it. And now Toxic Tutu is on Troma Now so that all the Troma fans who love Toxic Avenger got that opportunity to see it, which is great, because uh, that's a way, Joe's legacy for that is going to always live on,
Yeah, it is good. Yeah, I know. I've seen it. I watched it a couple of times on, on Amazon and stuff. And I did have a screening for it in Central PA one time. We didn't have a big turnout, but I tried to tie it in with wrestling because my bandmate, who's Mal Havoc. I don't know if you've ever seen him. He's an indie pro wrestler, but he travels up and down all the way. He does gigs from Pennsylvania down to Tampa and stuff. He does wrestling on all the circuits. And he did one of the songs or two of the songs. I can't remember if it was one or two that were in Toxic Tutu. So I did a promotion for it at an indie wrestling match, giving everybody that was there a discount for coming to the premiere and stuff. And it still didn't get a big turnout, but we got some people, which was kind of nice. But I thought that was a good way to push it too, because it was a similar mind kind of a group. You know what I mean? Plus, it
Oh
was a good
yeah.
wrestling tie-in with the movie. So
Well, see, that's the thing. Like the deal Joe wanted to do with the second one was make it more tied into wrestling. To he wanted it to bring pretty much like the Trauma family and the wrestling world together. Um, and it was funny some of the ideas that he had. So, I can make a lot of the stuff happen with the wrestling world and all that good thing. So, you know, it it's one of those deals, though, because with life you have to have time and have money, and right now everything's costing so much. Money's
it makes it hard. Yes. So,
yeah.
well, we've been talking about Toxic Tutu, which we both worked on. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about Derek Young? What got you involved in doing films? What got you involved in pro wrestling? What makes Derek Young Derek Young?
Well, pro wrestling is just kind of a funny thing that's always been there, right? My mom and dad, they when my mom was pregnant with me, went to the Roanoke Civic Center so they could meet the Rock and Roll Express and have them sign this life size poster. And Ricky Morton looked at my mom wrote this story in my baby book so that I could see it when I got older, right? But when Ricky Morton saw she was pregnant, he asked her if it was going to be a boy or girl. And she said boy. So he knelt down and kissed her stomach. And he told her, he said, I want you to promise me you're going to keep him in professional wrestling because this boy is going to do something special. So um, the minute that my mom and dad brought me home from the hospital, my dad actually set my baby carrier down and turned the TV on and he put wrestling on and it was over with then. All right. I watched wrestling my entire life since then. And then after I went into a depression for a while, I came out and, I made the decision. I was like, I never wrestled because I was afraid that I would, because how klutzy I am, that I would get hurt. but I was like, I could be a manager. I'm in my 30s, so it makes sense. So I went to Boogies and started training, and I've been doing it ever since. But then as far as like the filmmaking aspect of it, that's funny story too, because I was real good friends with these two guys, and we started filming stuff, and they would have, like, his brother wanted to be a filmmaker, so he would get me to act and get me to do all this stuff. And it's time during Jackass too, so like we started doing these things on MySpace called lame mo videos. So we would like reenact stupid stunts and screw them up and just go around doing dumb shit. But he well, the one that wanted to be a filmmaker, he had these great scripts, man, like amazing scripts that could have been really good movies. And he kept getting, like, he would give me the scripts, get me to type them up. He would get me to cast everything, get locations, get everything together. And I started doing all that, and I loved the like aspect of that part of it. And every time, like the day before filming, he would cancel because he was worried he wasn't going to be able to pull it off. And I'm like, all right, all right. So, come the third time, I had this great cast, and I was, I'm sitting here. I had a dude that was in Cabin Fever 2. I had all these different people that I knew were great. And I said to myself, I had lined up using my then wife's her aunt's family farm they grew up on, right? And we'd already been up there and went around and filmed some stuff on it, with our Lamo videos thing. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, what's going on with all of this? Like, why is he doing this? Well, maybe if I just keep this cast and location and tell them I'm just going to film something with them to show him he could do it. And then we'll, maybe get him more confident enough to film the one that they read his script for and loved. And maybe we'll be able to get this done. So I told that to everybody in the cast. I was like, I don't want to not film something with you guys because you guys were excited to do something. So I borrowed a $100 camera from somebody. I took $100 out of my pocket to make sure to feed everybody, and we all got together and filmed what was my first movie. And it actually had the opposite effect because I wanted to just give him a confidence boost and be like, hey, look, if I can do this, not knowing what to do, you can pull off your movie. And he got pissed off, and we're no longer friends because he decided I was trying to do stuff without him, which really sucked. But, hey, at the end of the day, it's what made me become a filmmaker because while making that, I fell in love with the directing side of it. Um, and it's funny because, like, with that movie, that's how I ended up getting to know Lloyd and becoming real good friends with him. And it kind of is the thing that spiraled me towards Toxic Tutu. So it's
So
it,
it was a good catalyst.
yeah, it sure was. And it's funny because I I love to promote it, but back in 1959, Plan 9 from Outer Space came out, and it was deemed the worst film ever made. So bad, it's
It,
good.
exactly. Some of the movies are so bad that they're good, and that is true. Now, a couple of things you said made me think of something. I used to have a friend who used to say, "No good deed goes unpunished." And that's what it sounded like. You were trying to do something good, but it got him mad. But it gave you the bug. And the other thing, in my interview with Mercedes, we talked about this. And sometimes you got to go out and take the bull by the horn yourself. I use the example. I had an old TV show where I hosted horror movies dressed as a vampire. Well, I got a whole group of people together to help me, organize this, and a makeup person and someone to do the editing. And it was horrible getting anything done. I came back a year and a half later, and the guy decided for the TV channel he wanted me to host cartoons because people don't do that much anymore. So I did the same thing as a vampire, hosted cartoons, except this time I figured out how to do all the editing myself, put the camera in the tripod, and everything myself so that I didn't need anybody else. And I did that show for 7 years because I just took the bull by the horn myself, because you can't always trust on the other person. It's hard to get people that have the same vision as you do for something. That is hard.
Yeah, it is. And the great thing though is over the time I've actually been able to make a lot of good friends that have the same, that understand my vision and understand me well enough that, like, when I'm directing, I don't even have to tell my buddy like what angle I want or what shot I want. When he sees me standing and looking at it, he knows exactly where to go to and how to set the camera up because he knows what I'm thinking. And that's just great stuff, right? But anyway, the thing I was going to tell you real fast was, so a lot of filmmakers, they went over the years trying to take the title of worst film ever made from Plan 9 purposely, but they all failed at it because they ended up just making movies that were so bad they were bad, right? And so when my first movie, which was Family Property, I got it with the distribution company, which everybody watched it, including the cast members and the people in my family, and said, "Man, that movie is so horrible, you will never get distribution for it." And I told them, I was like, they said it was fun to watch, but there's a lot of problems with it. I was like, but it's on purpose. You don't get it. All right. I understand it. You don't get it. I know what I did. So, because I noticed when I was editing, because I was teaching myself to edit with it too, right? I even used Windows Movie Maker to edit the friggin' movie, right? So I'm sitting here and I'm watching and I'm like, you know what? There's microphones coming into shots, there's audio problems, there's all these different problems with this. I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to leave the problems in this, because there's like websites that they literally try to find all that stuff, right? So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna leave a bunch of this stuff in just for jokes, all right, and see what happens. So when I told everybody though, when they told me that, I was like, not only will it get distributed, it'll get distributed worldwide. And they told me I was crazy. So I sit down, I sat with it. I got to go. Lloyd helped let me set up at the trauma table and sell copies of it because I was burning my own copies, just trying to get it out, get some people talking about it. And then I got it with the distribution company, and they said that the guy, like, it was funny how it happened too, because there was a guy that was a reviewer that saw the title a year prior, and he ended up being the person that was um, helping the owner of this distribution company try and build his second branch off. It's like Chemical Burn Entertainment was already established, but he wanted to make different venues that he could pick up other movies instead of just those styles. So he saw me promoting the movie again a year later, and he remembered the title. And because he remembered the title, he was like, man, maybe we need to get this movie. So he messaged me. They signed me for the movie without ever watching it. And then dude watched it, and he sat on it before distributing it for a year. And he made the decision on how he was going to distribute it because he said, I don't know what to do with it. So He ended up finally distributing it, and it's the tagline is put on the cover, the worst film ever made. All right. And it ended up taking the title from Plan 9, being deemed the worst film ever made. They distributed it worldwide. It stayed sold out for the first year. Like, it kept selling out. It was their number one seller. And it helped build his company because I ended up sending a bunch of my other friend filmmakers to him because they did so well in taking care of me. All right. So it helped build up everything to what they wanted off of this movie that everybody watched in the beginning and said it wasn't worth anything. And it got, and the company, the company name for them was Worldwide Multimedia. So I ended up getting worldwide distribution through Worldwide Multimedia and deemed the worst film ever made. So bad it's good. And then a year after the movie came out, this doesn't happen with movies, but a year after the movie came out, there was websites deeming it a cult classic.
Hmm. Very nice.
Yeah, so it was a lot of fun, man.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that's something too we could hope for with Toxic Tutu, that it became a cult classic, because it's being a mockumentary about Toxic Avenger. It's kind of a companion cult classic, I'd call it, in a way. And I'm hoping, uh, with the remake is rumored again of Toxic Avenger.
oh, it's not
You
just
know,
rumored; it's been made.
oh, it has already been finished.
Yeah, yeah, they've already made it. The trailers out for it.
Because I remember years ago when they were saying they were trying to get Arnold to play, if you remember that.
Well, you know who
But
they ended
I
up
would.
getting. You know who they ended up getting? They got Peter Dinklage.
Oh, okay, that's good. I thought you
Yeah,
think, yeah, I remember hearing that. But I hope when that comes out that it makes people look at the other Toxic Avenger stuff and Toxic Tutu. I think that
I
would be
got a
great.
feeling. I got a feeling it will. Because it's going to pick up this whole new fan base, and once everybody realizes it's a remake, they're going to want to find out what the original was like to cause this insanity of a movie that they've done. All right.
Yeah, I know it's true. I think that's kind of what I think would happen with the Rocky Horror movie. They came out with the new version of that. And I actually think that did more to get people reinterested in the original version than actually the new version. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, that's the norm though with remakes, right? All these all these younger people end up finding out it's remake, and they're like, huh. But their mindset with the way movies are, they go back and they watch them, and sometimes they don't like the originals. They like the remakes more, right? But it makes them go watch it, so it throws some money the way to the people that made the originals, So that's a plus in all of it, right? And it's
That is true.
funny.
I've noticed with movies and TV shows, I remember a day and age where they tried to get you intrigued in the movie and the TV show. And then like at the very end was the most activity. Like it all wrapped up and all kinds of crazy stuff happened at the end. But today they got to start the crazy stuff earlier or people don't keep their attention in it. It has to have a faster pace, I think, today than a lot of them used to in the old days. People aren't as interested, I think, in the build-up. They want the more instantaneous gratification, I think, a little bit.
Yeah, but see, that's what makes so many people bash movies
Yeah,
because
exactly. That is true.
they don't realize that they're sitting there getting all of this crap in the beginning of the movie. So when it gets to the end, there's no satisfaction, and it leaves you thinking, "Well, was that worth the money I just spent?" All right.
Or I hate when you see the preview of a movie and you're like, wow, that looks really good. And then you go see it and you're like, the preview was all the good parts of the movie. I've already
Exactly.
seen the good parts, you know.
Yeah, that's
So,
the whole
so we
point.
talked we talked about some of the stuff and how you got started and stuff. What Derek do you have? What projects are you currently working on? Or are you thinking about doing in the near future?
Well, I'll before I go to that, I want to mention my second movie, Midnight Matinee Psycho, real fast because it's funny with that movie. When I went into that movie, I was pissed off because Fangoria did a review of my first one and said, "How can you call Lloyd Kaufman a cameo because he's in everything? It's not really important." Right? So they pissed me off. So I found out a way with that one to where I could get celebrities. I would go to conventions and they didn't care to do little videos because they were there already making money. Right. And I actually kind of started like a trend of that with filmmakers. You know what I'm saying? They would go, they'd throw them a little money or do a contract where they make sure to say, "Hey, look, I'll give you something later," or whatever. And so with that one, I ended up getting like PJ Souls from Halloween, and I got some other names. But then I also made sure I got Lloyd Kaufman again, just so I could make sure that every movie I made from that point on had Lloyd Kaufman, so they could kiss my ass. He's not just a cameo. You know, he's not just a cameo. He's a built-in factor for a Derek Young movie, right? So
Sort of
it
like
was
Stan Lee in the Marvel movies, you know.
exactly right. Which is funny because if you take and watch the newest Return to Nukem High stuff, Stan Lee does the commentary for it because a lot of people don't realize like how big Lloyd is, right? Lloyd, if it was not for Lloyd Kaufman, we wouldn't have Hollywood like we have it today. And Hollywood doesn't understand that themselves because a lot of their biggest stars started acting in trauma films, right? As kids or something. You know what I'm saying?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And and that's where they got their bug and all this other stuff. There's a lot of filmmakers, right? Like the guy that made I can't remember, like I I can't remember his name off the top of my head for some reason, but the guy that made Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff, right? Lloyd gave him
Yeah,
his
I can't think
start.
of his name right now either, but yeah.
Lloyd gave him his start, right? If it wasn't for Lloyd giving him his start and him becoming who he is through Lloyd Kaufman, we wouldn't have had him directing Guardians of the Galaxy. We wouldn't have all these things. Lloyd built it, but Hollywood blacklisted him because they couldn't stand that he made such a huge film and got his company to where it was without their help. You know, but then it turns around, and then they were like, well, you know what? Maybe it'd be smart we go ahead and pay him some money and do a remake of his movie that made him so big to begin with because we ain't got nothing else. We've ran out of stuff, you know? And I
Well,
think it's a,
I always like, Bruce Campbell and his gang, and Remy and stuff, and they all started that's with those movies, and by everybody's standards, they were not the best movies, but you know what? They had a cult classic, and most of those guys are still making money in movies,
well,
you
see,
know.
it's funny. Some of the best filmmakers, Quentin Tarantino, which is funny because I've been compared to him thanks to my second movie, but Quentin Tarantino, Kevin Smith, um, Peter Jackson, even um, like all of them, right? They all became filmmakers because they became huge fans of trauma, right? Even Sam and Ted Raimi, like all this, a lot of the stuff they put in those movies was kind of trauma style comedy with a whole lot of gore, right?
Right.
Like every bit of this stuff lines in together with them being fans of trauma at the time, right? So we wouldn't have those great filmmakers and those things if it wasn't for Lloyd Kaufman. So for somebody to say having him isn't a cameo, screw you,
Hmm.
man. Like screw you big time, right? Because he's a legend, you know.
Well,
So
I hate to say this though. I mean, I don't know how old are you now? You said what
I'm 40.
you're 40. Well, I'm in my 60s, and I tell you, I have started to find that a lot of the younger people that are in any industry you deal with, they've forgotten about a lot of stuff that went on before. And they don't give people, the courtesy that they should for what they've done because they don't remember.
Or they
And
don't know.
well, yeah, they don't remember and they don't know and they don't care to look back at it until somebody hits them over the head with it, and then they go, "Oh," you know. But I find that a lot in a lot of different things. They just don't. They don't know and they don't remember because there's nobody there. I think in the old days, your parents told you and your other family told you, "Oh, you should have seen this back then. You should have seen this movie." And I think with everybody in with media and stuff, I don't think they get the same history of things as we used in the old days. I think the word of mouth in the old days used to convey a lot more information about some stuff than the social media does. It's interesting to me because in the old days I'd have family members that would tell me, "Hey, you should have seen this movie," or "Don't you know who that is?" Like my sister who's 70, we still always talk about movie stars and people from old movies and songs, and a lot of the people around us and going like, "Who are you guys talking about?" And I think some of it is the fact they don't care either, to tell you the truth. And I think that's a pity because they can learn a lot from what is done before. They can learn a lot from going back and watching the older trauma films. They can learn a lot from watching that old stuff that would be beneficial to them in the industry today. And I don't think they bothered to do it, to be honest with you.
Well, they don't because we have cancel culture now, and cancel
Yeah,
culture has ruined everything because cancel culture is going around making history get deleted, right?
that is true.
Like, and because they're making history get deleted, then you have all of these different people, that can change history because it's not there to teach, it's not there to see. So we can now, the people that are the powers to be can now tell you whatever the hell they want. So all of these kids that are growing up, once all of us that are older pass away, all of their kids are going to be taught all this crazy BS that ain't true at all because they're going to tell them what they want to tell them and they'll believe it because there's nothing to show them otherwise. And people
Well, I
like,
saw.
it's
Go
like,
on. I'm sorry.
it's crazy because people are like, well, just Google it. You do realize that there's somebody sitting behind Google that with one stroke of a key can change every single definition and every single thing that is on the internet. Like I remember looking like at stuff online and seeing this exact like follow through of things where it's saying, yes, this is true, this is true, this is true, this is true, right? And then here we are like 2 years later, I go type in the exact same wordage I did in Google before, and now there's all this fact checker stuff saying all of that was a lie, right? And all of the stuff that showed it was true is now deleted from the internet. And
It's. I was gonna say it's almost like they're making a new K-Fab about real life.
exactly. And that's the people think like you hear a lot of people sitting and saying like maybe CERN pushed us into a different dimension and stuff because of the Mandela effect things. Here's the funny thing. We didn't get pushed anywhere. The powers to be changed everything on the internet. So now all these young people believe that what's on the internet is right. And you have all the older people who know that that's wrong sitting and arguing that it's right. You know, that what they're saying is right.
I
It's not
saw, there's that new TV show out called Them, and it's a horror show based on some truth to it on how black people moved into Compton and made it change the ratio of black and white in Compton. But it's a horror show and it's based on that. I read one review that said it was about the discrimination in the 70s, 80s, 90s. And I'm like, what the hell are they talking about? And then I read another review that said 40s, 50s, 60s. I'm like, yeah, the 40s, 50s, 60s is when this show was actually done. But the review that said 70s, 80s, 90s was done by a young 20-something reporter writing about it. In his concept of time, this happened in the 70s, 80s, 90s, when it really happened in the 40s, 50s, 60s. But he's putting reviews out there saying this, and it's like, if you didn't know any better, if you were another young person, say in your 20s, you might believe that. You know what I mean? And it's like, that was wrong. That was just based on his concept because of him being young. To him, the 70s, 80s, 90s sounded like a long time ago. And to some of us, it's not. You feel like it was just yesterday. But it's interesting how you can catch that and see it. And like, oh my God, how many people read that? And then to them, that becomes reality. You know
reality.
what I mean?
Yeah. And you have
It's,
all these people sitting around and you cannot in any way, shape, or form, no matter how much you tell them they're wrong, get them to see why they're wrong.
well, because it's in print. They just saw it. It was just on the internet in print. See, here it is. So it must be right, you know. But
Yeah, but anyway, um like we'll go back to like the movie stuff. So when I did Midnight Matinee Psycho, that led to me like becoming friends with some other people, and then I moved into my third film, Psychotic State. Well, in that one, Fangoria didn't take notice to the couple little extra cameos I did, so I was like, well, you know what? Screw it. I'm gonna go for broke. I know how I can get a lot. I'm going to make a horror film that has an underlying anti bullying message, and I'm going to get anti bullying PSAs from celebrities to put at the beginning and the end of the movie. And I ended up getting 15 celebrity cameos. So, and Psychotic State, I haven't released yet. Um, I ended up going into my depression and kind of fell off for a while. Then I came out of it. My dad died. So, like it threw me
sorry to hear
back a
about your
little
dad.
bit. Yeah, so it threw me back a little bit, but I'm working on I went back and looked at Psychotic State and now I'm doing a completely re-edit of it before I release it. So, I'm getting ready to finally release it. And then I made the sequel, Family Property 2, made the sequel to the worst film ever made. And funny enough, I started through John Alton, who made music for Sleepaway Camp 2, 3, and 4. I ended up, and through my buddy Greg Titterton, he got me talking to John Alton and Frankie Vinci, who did the music for Sleepaway Camp 1. So thanks to him, I got them together to where they would let me use music from them. So I put it into the movie. And I ended up through John, he wanted me to talk to this girl he was friends with, Michelle Blasky, and thanks to her, I sent her my footage. I was in my depression, like I went into my depression right after I finished filming Family Property 2. and I didn't realize there were scenes that I hadn't filmed. So I'm sitting here, I can't go back and refilm it or anything else. So I just tell her, I'm like, look, this is just what it is. Make it into something. And I let her edit it. And it's funny because she gave me back a movie that I think is probably going to take the title of worst film ever made from its original, which is hilarious. But so we got that whole ordeal worked out. I finally got it completely finished. So I'm getting ready to start working on putting it out. But I've already found out distribution companies don't want to touch it because they said that it's too graphic, which is hilarious. Because, like, with the crap that they released today, you're going to say this is too graphic. But there's like different scenes in it because there's a scene in it that will make people's minds change on a rubber ducky for the rest of their lives. Um, and it's a hilarious scene. But then there's also a scene where there at the time of filming, this girl, she's 18 now. She was a little 8-year-old girl at the time, and her grandfather, he has, or not, her uncle, is it great uncle? I can't remember what it was, but they have custody over her, right? And she was, they were going to be in the movie, and she was begging to be in the movie. All right. Now, mind you, at this point, it's hard as all get out to get, whenever you're doing a horror film, to get people um, from the black community to put in for a horror film because of the stereotypes that have happened in horror over the years, right? And so at this point, I didn't have anybody in my cast of color at all, and but I always like have in my head going into my movies that I'm not going to do those stereotypes. And then for some reason, somebody from an actor or actress in the black community shows up and says, "Hey, I want to be the person that dies in the beginning of the movie." And I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't want to do that. I hate that
And do,
stereotype.
do they also want to wear a red shirt like Star Trek? So
I
they can
have
be the
no,
red shirt too.
I have no clue. But anyway, so this little girl, they were white, and they never mentioned that, you know, she was mixed, and so, but that didn't matter to me, right? Little girl begging them to be in a movie. All right, she's 8. She wants to be in a movie. You don't care if she's in the movie. Okay, fine. We'll put her somewhere. And we ain't got to kill her. All right. The killer can let her go because she's a little kid. Then the little girl gets there. And the little girl gets there. And that's when I find out, she's mixed. And I'm like, cool. There's somebody in my film of color that I don't have to kill. No, I
Did
was
you end up
wrong.
killing
I was
her?
wrong. I was wrong. The little 8-year-old girl begged to die in the movie. And she gave me these puppy dog eyes. And I was like, God, this is going to be controversial as hell because now the only person of color in my movie is an 8-year-old little girl that's going to get killed. But I can't tell her no. So, we do the scene, and it's one of the scenes that distribution company has told me I need to delete if I want it to be distributed. And I'm like, well, screw you. I just distribute it myself because I'm not cutting that little girl out of the movie. But so got that. And then when I came out of my depression, right, and I was starting wrestling and everything else right before the pandemic, I decided to make another movie, and I went and made The Right Family, which that movie I did do like the old school major build up and all the insanity coming at the end type deal. And it's real cool because when I did my premieres for the 3 last movies that I worked on, people that watched it kind of said that it made them feel like they were going back and watching a Hitchcock film or something, So that's real cool. But um, So did the right family. Um, gonna work on trying to get it distributed now, and then my buddy Damus Moss from Moss Productions, he brought me in to direct and help produce this movie, his first movie, that him and his cousin James Harris had wrote. And so I went in and helped with that. That's called Sweet 18. It's a nice little campy throwback to 80s slasher flicks. So it's got plenty of stuff that everybody can look for. Hopefully within the next year to coming out. Um, hopefully some of it'll be out in the next few months. But so gonna have all of that. Um, and then on top of that, as far as like the wrestling stuff, if anybody's watching wrestling fans, if you go on Facebook and look up American Pro Wrestling out of West Virginia, you'll find the company that I'm with. They actually have all of the stuff that they film. They put up on Rumble. They put the links out and everything so people can go there and click the Rumble links and join Rumble and watch all the TV and stuff that we film. The company actually ended up getting on Fox for the Fox channels for all of Southern West Virginia,
That's nice.
and so they come on Fox on Saturday, like um, I can't remember if it's Saturday at midnight going into Sunday morning or Friday at midnight going into Saturday morning. But that's when that airs, and it's on everything that has any Fox channel. So if you got Direct TV or anything like that, you can watch it. Um, if you're looking for me, I'm Bronco Barnett. Um, but so
So you're a manager on there. You and
yeah, yeah. So
what stars do you manage? What wrestlers?
well, there's different things. If you're on Rumble and you're going through all the TV, you'll see me managing the Foreign Legion at one point. Right now, I'm with the Bronx Bombers, and all of that stuff might be changing pretty soon. But the way that it goes, man, with life, I can't be there every week for weekly TV. So I manage who needs to have a manager at when I come around. And, um, just with the work schedule like I have, it's kind of hard to do a lot of things because I work third shift. So, we do what we can do and try to do our best at that. But at the end of the day, it's, just a lot of fun going around. I do want to say, like, some of the great people that I've been able to become friends with, I want to make sure to throw shout outs with them because they've helped me become who I am and helped me make my project. So like um I was always going with Young Productions 36 as my, I don't know why I did, but that's why, and it's funny because I made the right family when I turned 36. But I will always went with Young Productions 36 because that was like the email that I was able to get with Young Productions. So I was like, that's my production company name. Hell with it. But my buddy George Richardson, who's known as George the Zombie, he's great, and him and his friend, our other friend Kurt Esmond, Kurt does all the photography and he helps fund a lot of stuff, and George, he does all the filming and stuff for me and runs sound, and he acts for me, and uh he we were all sitting around with us and Damus and all of us, and we were talking about people how I've been gone. Like I haven't had anything released since Midnight Matinee Psycho, so people probably thought I died that were fans of my movies. Funny stuff because if they don't stay on your social media, they just don't see any more movies. You're like dead in the business, right? And people
Well,
probably think,
hopefully this helps. inform them that you're still alive, you know?
Yeah, well, people think you're dead in the business if you're gone for a while. So we were joking and we were like, how are we going to tell everybody that we're not dead in this business yet? So we decided that we're now going to be underneath the moniker of Not Dead Yet Productions.
There you go. Of course, maybe you should make a movie about that where there's a producer, director, writer that they think is dead and he makes a comeback with a new movie.
Hey, you never know. We can do that too, right? But but I want to go ahead and tell you, just so I got it out there to everybody, because people don't realize something that I'm doing. And, you know, I realized to myself that I get these movies out. If something happens to me and I die before I get to finalize my idea, I wanted to make sure people knew it. But every movie that I have that I've actually made that are mine 100%. So you have Family Property, Midnight Matinee Psycho, Psychotic State, Family Property 2, and The Right Family. All right. Those 5 movies are all, except for Family Property, the Family Property ones, all those movies are different standalone movies. But what I've been doing that people don't know or even understand, they think that when I'm always talking about my other movies or mentioning the other killers and stuff in these other movies, that I'm just giving myself a shameless plug as a filmmaker. What they don't realize is the only reason I'm doing it is because by the time, if I get the chance, if I make it and I live long enough, God willing, to make Family Property 3, I got to make The Right Family 2 first, and I got to make Josie, and then make Family Property 3. When I get there, all right, I will have right at 10 films that I've made, and every single one of those are tied together because every single killer is related. They're all family, and Family Property 3 is going to culminate with the town of vigilantes coming to take down the family, take down these certain killers that they know of, when they're going to be running into the entire family together and having to kill all of them in order to take out the threat to the town.
So I like that idea. So that movie is going to tie all of the other movies together.
Yeah. So essentially, all of the films are sequels, but standalone films together. So
Yeah, I like that. That's a good idea.
it's something nobody's ever done before, and I wanted to do something nobody has done. And you know, people don't know it, so I figured I'd take this time while talking to you to put it out there to the world in case somebody runs up on it, they'll know and figure it out.
I like that. That is a very good idea. But I tell you what, it's going on an hour that I've been talking to you now, so I'll let you get going. People, it's hard to keep people's attention on these interviews when they get too long. What I'd rather do is circle back to you in a while and have another interview and see how things are going for you. I tell you what, though, whatever links you'd like me to use, if you could email them to me, and then I will put them, like they say, down below underneath when I put this up. And I'll have this up either tonight or tomorrow.
Okay, I'll go through and pull all the movie page links up and stuff like that and send them to you, and my social media tags and everything for Instagram and TikTok and all that, so people can go
So we
follow
can
what
make
they
sure they
will.
can circle back to you and find out more about you. I'm glad
Oh
we
yeah.
did this, and I'm glad that you that through interviewing Mercedes Lucky Benedict that we kind of got back with each other. I mean, it's been a long time.
Oh yeah.
I one of the some of the other people I've worked with Toxic Tutu are funny. There's a couple people I've worked with, and you know they start talking to me about things, and oh, the projects we started on. And I'm like, no, that's not the first project we worked on. We worked on Toxic Tutu together. And they're like, oh, we did. It's like people sometimes, it's funny though, but there's a lot of people you met through working on that movie. And then you end up working with them again and they kind of forgot that they worked with you on that movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if you weren't there when they were in front of the camera, it didn't. Yeah, it they don't look at everybody else. That's the big
Well,
thing.
even if you were
Yeah.
talking to them afterwards, sometimes they forget, you know, and
Oh yeah,
I keep in touch.
you
I
get
keep in
that.
touch with Mark.
Yeah, you get that adrenaline rush from doing your scene and everything, and you can have a conversation, and the next day it's gone. You had no clue that you even had it. You know, so
I do that with regular life, you know. I mean, but thank you, Derek, for being with us today, and I will get this up, and I look forward to talking to you some more in the future. And I'm going to be busy looking at your films that I can find also after you send me the links and everything. So I'm going to be
yeah.
enjoying that.
Well, Family Property and Midnight Matinee Psycho, the only way you can get those are on DVD. So you got to get physical media for those because that's when they came out. They came out before streaming, and nobody set it up for that. So,
Might you be able to pick them up on eBay, or do you have a link when you can get where you can get them?
yeah, you can find them on eBay. So,
That's one of the things I like about eBay. You can find the unique things you can't find on Amazon. You know,
yeah, well, I think there's still some copies you can get on Walmart.com and stuff like that too. So, because they've been on there forever. But it's funny because Family Property is the first movie I've ever seen. You know how well, I'll say this real quick and then we'll say bye. But you know how
no problem.
every time movies go on Walmart and they like in a few months they're in the $5 section,
Right.
right? Or the $3 section. Well, Family Property's been on Walmart.com now for 11 years. And the only thing, like the last time I looked, it started out at 19.99. The last time I looked, it was 24.99 to buy a copy from them.
It
So
went up. There
it
you go.
went up in price instead of going down, which is
I can
hilarious.
see that. Yeah, that's good. But and are you still getting any money back off that or no?
Oh, every once in a blue moon, people buy copies and a little bit of change comes in from it. But
I always call it the fractions of pennies come trickling in. You
yep,
know, so but
yep.
well, we wish you luck, and we will talk to you soon. And thank you very much, Derek, for being with us today.
Well, thank you for having me, man. It was a great time, so I appreciate it.
So I just got to try and get to the button here. I always hate when you get to the button and your fingers in the screen. But you have a great one. Thanks for being with us.
Yep, thank you, man.